Welcome back to CIA Declassified. How do you know when a man has reached his limit? In the 1960s and 70s, the CIA wasn't satisfied with the gut feeling of an interrogator. They wanted a formula. They wanted to turn the visceral, sweaty reality of a high stakes interrogation into a predictable graph of human endurance. This pursuit was codified in a series of behavioral analysis projects known as the Gander Study. The goal was simple yet chilling: to identify the physiological tells of a double agent, someone living a lie, and to use those tells to predict exactly when that person would break. The Gander study utilized what was, at the time, cutting-edge biometric monitoring. Subjects, often defectors whose loyalty was in question, were placed in rooms rigged with hidden sensors. The agency developed non-contact sensors that could measure heart rate and pupil dilation from across a room using infrared beams. They paired this with early micro-expression analysis based on the work of psychologists like Paul Ekman to catch flickers of emotion that lasted less than a fifth of a second. A quote from the CIA Behavioral Activities Report number 68-422. The Gander protocol focuses on the involuntary muscle movements of the face, specifically the microtremors of the eyelids and the tension of the jaw. These signals provide a real-time stress index that is independent of the subject's verbal denials. End quote. Another quote from an internal memorandum to the Office of Medical Services. We are looking for the Gander point, the specific intersection where the subject's metabolic cost of maintaining a lie exceeds their psychological capacity for resistance. Once this point is reached, confession is not just likely, it is a physiological necessity. End quote. Before we continue into the protocols, we must look closer at the specific environment of these tests. The Gander sessions were primarily conducted in a facility internally referred to as Room 40. This wasn't just an interrogation room, it was a giant integrated sensor. The floor tiles were pressure sensitive to measure weight shifting, a subconscious indicator of the fight or flight response. And the air conditioning was rigged to provide thermal shocks, allowing researchers to measure how quickly a subject's skin temperature recovered after a stressful question was posed. A quote from Dr. Sidney Gottlieb, Technical Services Division. The human body is an inefficient liar. While the mind can craft a narrative, the nervous system is a broadcasting station of truth. Our task with Gander is to tune the receiver until the signal of betrayal drowns out the noise of the cover story. End quote. There is significant speculation among former intelligence historians that the Gander data revealed a terminal echo, a phenomenon where minutes before a total psychological break, the subject's heart rate would perfectly synchronize with the rhythmic ticking of the wall clock or the interrogator's own breathing. Speculation suggests this was a form of biological surrender, where the subject's autonomy was so eroded they began to physically mirror their environment in a desperate subconscious attempt to find safety. The study didn't just observe stress, it manufactured it. The Gander protocols involved a calibrated escalation of environmental discomfort designed to push the subject toward that Gander point. There is significant speculation that the CIA utilized subaudible cognitive dissonance. Historians theorize that during Gander sessions, the agency played low-frequency recordings of the subject's own voice, slightly out of phase, to create a sense of internal unraveling and mental fatigue that accelerated the breaking process. The Gander researchers found that sleep deprivation cycles were most effective when combined with sensory inconsistencies, changing the temperature and light levels of the room at random intervals to shatter the subject's internal clock. Declassified logs reveal that the Gander study was conducted at black sites in Western Europe and Southeast Asia. The agency used control subjects, willing participants, to establish a baseline, then compared that data to hostile interrogations of actual suspected double agents. A quote from a declassified case officer log. Stations redacted. Subject 44G exhibited the predicted Gander spike at hour 32. Biometric showed a sudden drop in skin conductivity, followed by an erratic pulse. The verbal confession followed within 180 seconds. The predictive model held true within a 4% margin of error. End quote. Speculation exists regarding pharmacological accelerants. Some researchers believe that the Gander study experimented with metabolic stressors, drugs that didn't act as truth serums but instead increased the subject's baseline anxiety and heart rate, making their tells much easier for the sensors to detect. The study concluded that the most dangerous moment for an interrogator is the false plateau, a period where a subject appears to have broken but is actually providing a pre-rehearsed secondary lie. The Gander biometric data was able to distinguish between a genuine emotional collapse and a staged one. There is a theory concerning the Gander mirror. Speculation suggests the CIA developed a specialized interrogation room where the two-way mirror was actually a high-resolution display. This display could allegedly project subtle subconscious visual cues like the faces of the subject's family at a speed too fast for the conscious mind to see, triggering a biometric spike that the interrogators could then exploit. A quote from the final summary, Office of Technical Service. The Gander methodology has successfully removed the art from the interrogation process and replaced it with a diagnostic framework. We no longer ask if a subject will break, we calculate when, end quote. The most heavily redacted section of the Gander files is Annex K, Irreversible Psychological Degradation, end quote. There is heavy speculation that these pages detail the long-term damage caused by Gander protocols. The theory is that the Gander point wasn't just a point of confession, but a point of total personality fracture. Speculation suggests that subjects who were pushed past their point became psychologically hollow, losing the ability to form new memories or maintain a stable identity. Further speculation suggests that the redactions hide the asset recycling program. This theory posits that once a double agent was broken via Gander, the agency used the biometric data to reprogram them, using the same stress points to install a new loyal identity before sending them back into the field as a triple agent. Was the Gander study a success? Scientifically, the Gander study was a landmark in behavioral psychology. It proved that the body often betrays the mind long before the tongue does. Operationally, it provided the CIA with a blueprint for the modern interrogation techniques that would be used for decades. However, the study also revealed a flaw. The Gander point is different for every individual. While the sensors could detect the break, the agency found it impossible to create a universal formula that worked on every culture and personality type. The Gander legacy lives on in the tech we see today. For instance, automated affective computing. The micro-expression algorithms developed for Gander are the direct ancestors of modern AI-driven emotion recognition software. Remote vitals monitoring. The infrared heart rate tracking tech developed for the study is now used in contactless medical diagnostics and sleep tracking apps, and high-stress biometric modeling. The study's data on how the body reacts to extreme stress is still used to train elite special forces and astronauts to manage their own breaking points. The Gander study reminds us that in the shadows of the Cold War, the most intimate parts of being human, our fear, our loyalty, our very pulse, were viewed as data points to be harvested and exploited. The breaking point wasn't just a moment of defeat, it was a calibrated achievement of science. Next time on CIA Declassified, we leave the interrogation room for the flight deck of a most unusual aircraft. We examine the inflatable plane. Based on Declassified Directorate of Science and Technology files, we explore the CIA-funded research into the Goodyear inflatoplane. We'll look at the agency's attempt to build a rubber aircraft that could be dropped in a box to downed pilots behind enemy lines, and the terrifying test flights of a plane held together by nothing but air pressure. Join us for the rubber wing. In the meantime, I'll see you in the archives.